Okay, all right.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We have a couple of things on the Zoom portion of the agenda, and then we're going to head over to Mud Pond for a site visit with Fellowship of the Wheel. But first, so call the meeting to order, and then open the meeting for any public comment, for which I think Reed Parker is signed on today.
Yes.
Reed, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. So I'm here. A few months ago, I presented to this group a proposal that we look at Mud Pond as a possible duck nesting site. So I have been out there. I found out how difficult it is to get to the edge of the water. It's pretty overgrown, but I'm still optimistic that in the areas near both the platforms, either left or right of those, we'd like to put one nesting box on each side of the pond. And I'd like to get at least one of them up this fall to try and catch the attention of ducks during the migration season. Hopefully two. I have one built that's sitting in my garage, and would have to haul it out there and get one set up. So I just wanted input from you as whether you agree with that. I realize how marshy and boggy it is. I want to get out of the woods, but not necessarily at the water's edge, but in the muddy area to put the pole in. So looking for feedback from you folks.
I think now it would probably be one of the better times to do it since the water's so low.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, well, it is a little bit drier, even though after the rain, but yeah, it probably would be a lot easier to get out there.
Yeah.
There's kind of an unofficial trail. People have on the Mud Pond east side. There's kind of an unofficial trail. People have, pulled boards out there and laid them down to try to get out to see the pond over the years.
Yeah, I found that.
Yeah.
And didn't manage to get to the pond, but you end up floating on the bog. So I don't want to put the pole out that far. I want to come back into the mud and sink it in with a ground anchor so we can get to it more easily regardless of the weather, or the water depth.
I guess the only thing I have to offer is just caution in that, yes, the pond is low and that creates very easy access to get closer to the pond, but just, in future years, if you need to get out there for maintenance to clean out the boxes or whatever, I don't know if you'd be doing that in the spring or fall or winter, but if the water level is higher, that could make it more challenging to get out to it.
Right, which is why ducks will actually nest in trees right at the water edge if there was a hollow tree. So I just would think of imitating that by putting the box facing the water slightly into the mud, but not very far in. So it's still in that very brushy area. And it would stick above there because of the height of the metal pole we're putting in, and try and get one just far enough away from the observation stand so maybe people could see it, but they wouldn't be tempted to go over there and open the observation door on it and bother the ducks if they were nesting.
Yeah, that was my only concern, Reed, was just whether people would go out to it if it was accessible from the edge.
Right.
So as long as you
Yeah.
think it's obscured enough or that it's positioned such that it's not going to be tempting for people to try to go look at it, I think that's good.
Yeah, we'll position it in such a way that it's people wouldn't get to it very easily. And so that, and Terry's aware that we are putting informative signs up. That's probably something for later to talk to you guys about, but I'm actually going to present to Catamount tomorrow a few signs that we've mocked up for people to get information about the duck nesting. So I'll bring those back to you later. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds
Reed.
great. Thanks, Reed.
Okay. I'll drop off now. Enjoy your trek out there today.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So the next up is the minutes from our last meeting on August 17th. Does anybody have any comments or suggestions on the minutes? I just scanned through them and I thought they looked pretty good. Nice job, Simon. Oh, I did have one comment actually on number 7 on the Allenbrook Boardwalk site visit. Given that we're spending $75,000 or did spend $75,000 on this new boardwalk, can we say that the Conservation Commission thought that it may last much longer than 14 years?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. That's all I had.
Yeah.
Yes, we hope it's going to last quite a while.
There's just one quick thing under trail steward. It may have been my eyes, but it looked like working and locking after the trails instead of looking.
Okay.
Just a little thing.
I saw that. I thought I quickly scanned that.
It
Little typo.
doesn't make too much difference.
I'll identify that and change it in the final version.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
Yep, I'll make a
All right.
motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Thank you,
I'll
Terry.
second.
Thanks, Reed. Any discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor of approving the minutes as amended signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And would anyone like to abstain? All right, there you go, Simon, thank you. Next up, we have the renewal of the Catamount Outdoor Family Center license.
So this is, you're probably all aware that the town signed a license with the Outdoor Family Centre back in March 2019, which is up for renewal. It expires in October 2023. So we want to get on with discussing with the Outdoor Family Centre its renewal. It's something we're looking to progress quite quickly. It's going to be probably a five-year renewal. So the license basically sets out how they are supposed to operate their outdoor centre, what the sort of permitted uses are, what they're responsible for in terms of sort of day-to-day maintenance and creating an annual maintenance plan. It also sort of sets out the event permitting process, and then it reserves some town rights to, do things like, close trails, importantly to carry out forestry management, things like that. And then it has all the usual nuts and bolts about insurance and liability and things like that. So what Eric, the town manager, has asked for is feedback from yourselves and the Catamount Community Forest Committee about any sort of subject areas they think could be improved, or you'd like to change, or if you have any comments just at all. I know that staff is generally been fairly happy with how things have gone. We probably are going to completely rework the event permitting element of it, simply because it needs to work within the new temporary events ordinance that's been adopted earlier this year. They don't really fit together well, but also the Catamount got a discretionary permit for their parking area and outdoor sort of use of the property to sort of formalize that earlier in the year. So it needs to recognize those two important developments since 2019. So if you guys have any comments, please let me have them. I know that the The Outdoor Family Centre sort of mentioned previously that they sell annual passes. So they're keen to get this done well in advance of the of October next year, so they can sell those passes with confidence.
What were some of the issues with, I don't know anything about the events process. What were some of the problems that they were having?
So I think the way it's set up at the moment is that Catamount have to tell us sort of early December what their schedule of events is for the following year, and then we have to approve it or discuss with them any changes. If there are any changes to the event or they've got new ones, they have to notify us with sort of 30 days notice, and there's things in there about, you know, if it precludes pedestrian access, the notifications are slightly different. I think, you know, Catamount have said, you know, we don't really know what our event schedule is going to be in December of the preceding year. I know that previously what they provided us has been a little generic sometimes, and I think we want to formalize it, but we also want to look at taking some of the event notifications for things that they do on a, you know, a regular basis that everyone already expects and knows is going to happen. They might just not know exactly the days. You know, put that in there as a sort of, this is going to happen in this certain time frame. And I think it also just needs to recognize, you know, that we do have this new process in place. And I know that the manager's office has been working with the outdoor centre to start developing a better understanding about the types of events that they have and what does and doesn't need to go to the select board or be approved by the manager, and what they can just do.
So I'm in, oh, sorry. It's, I know parking's been an issue with some of the larger events.
Yeah.
Do you know how they're addressing that?
So I think what they started to do is develop with the town manager a couple of things, and a lot of it's, you know, about messaging to people that they can't park on Governor Chittenden Road, potentially including more marshals for the parking area to steer people to the right location, but also make sure people are parking more efficiently in the parking lots. You know, when you go skiing or something in the winter on busy days, you know, you have people in the parking lot telling you, you know, move over, you know, don't leave, you know, 6-7 feet between yourself and another car, things like that. And I don't think they've done it yet, but there was some discussion about shuttling, you know, having an off-site parking area for the really big events, and potentially running some sort of shuttle to get people to and from Catamount to avoid overspill parking on the road.
Was that what the discretionary permit was for? Parking?
It was for two things really. It was to formalize that parking area that they have, their parking lot, but also to sort of formalize them as a use that has events and operates as a recreational centre, particularly in light of the fact that the temporary events ordinance, when it came out, was going to restrict you to, I think it's 12 events a year, 12 temporary events a year, and they wanted to have some sort of avoidance where Catamount didn't technically have a zoning permit for what they do on a day-to-day basis, and then someone comes along and says, well, you only allow 12 events a year, and that could create a real problem for how they operate. So it's to formalize what they already have, you know, put it on the books, and this is an outdoor event centre, and then have the temporary event process for, you know, those unusual events that may exceed their parking capacity, where they need to rely on the oval or other special measures and that sort of thing.
I know this wouldn't be a solution for every season, but the Intervale Community Farm, they were having a real problem with parking. Because people would come up and pick their CSA shares up and they would just pull in and park willy-nilly. And Andy ended up getting a little machine, you know, a push machine thing that actually laid down lines for parking. And that was huge. They said that after they put those lines down, which lasted quite a while through the season, that they had really, the problem went away. I don't know if something like that could be done at Catamount to kind of steer people where to park. I've been over there and there's a lot of wasted space when nobody's there showing people where to park. So just one idea. I don't know if that's, you know, it would be good for 3 of the seasons, not, you know, not winter, but
Yeah.
but it's only a temporary, it's like chalk or
Yeah.
some kind of something. So, and it might even work for like Mud Pond Conservation Area, because sometimes I get over there and I'm like, you know, if people would have just parked a little bit better, you know, tighter, you know, you wouldn't have to go all the way down the road. They could fit more cars in that lot. So.
Yeah.
Eric and Simon, is our role just to advise the select board on whether we have any concerns with renewing the contract or any changes we want to recommend?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So will we be talking about this further, or is this like our one time?
No, this is your one time.
One time, yeah.
Unless you feel particularly strongly that there's something you want to discuss further, another meeting. But I mean, does anyone have any comments? I guess would be the right place to start.
Yeah, I have a couple. I'll start with a very simple, very minor one, which is in the 1, 2, 3, the third whereas for the past 12 years, licensee, blah, blah, blah. I suggest just changing that to whereas since 2010, a nonprofit organization. That way it doesn't have to be updated every time this license is renewed. And we don't end up with incorrect information or confusing information. More substantially though, I'm wondering, and maybe I just missed it in here, but I'm wondering if we can require them in a license to provide an annual report on usage. I know that they do that anyway for the town's annual report. They provide a summary, but I think it would be nice just to, if it's not already in here, maybe it is, I just missed it, but to write that straight into the license agreement, you know, something that requires them to provide, I don't know, a report, you know, a summary report of what happened at the facility over the previous year, number of events held, types of events, how many people use the property, whatever seems reasonable.
Yeah,
And
so they do, I guess they do sort of do that already. Funnily enough, I actually got something through from them last week. I can just show you it actually, if that's helpful. It's sort of the event log for the financial year. That just, you know, sets out how many, like what the events were and roughly how many people, you know, attended them. So you can see, you know, the regular stuff like their weekly series. And then, you know, the larger events like the high school race. And then possibly that was the one that might have caused some of the problems.
500, yeah.
Yeah.
500 middle schoolers
Yeah.
running around. Yeah, I can imagine.
That looks like a bad idea no matter what happened with the parking.
Because Hans said that would never happen again. He promised. I think that was a learning curve.
Okay, so yeah, I guess that's the kind of information I was thinking. So good. You know, I think maybe it would be good to just acknowledge that somewhere in the license that they will provide that summary of what happened. You know, it's like basically what you just showed me.
Yeah.
Of the previous fiscal year.
I think it's good for the town just to
Yeah.
be aware of what, you know, what is going on our own land.
Yep. And then my third comment, also somewhat minor, I guess, but so there's language in there in several places that requires a licensee to provide the town with a list of events. And so I'm wondering if maybe just for in the name of reducing the length of the document, maybe that can all be reduced. Those multiple references can be reduced down to a single reference. I think it's important. I want to make sure that's not lost, but
You could name it like event list and then just reference the event list.
Yeah, something like that, so that it's only referenced once, and you don't reduce the risk of confusion and conflicting requirements and whatever.
Yeah.
Just as a suggestion. I know once the lawyers get a hold of it, that it all changes and they make it as long as confusing as possible. But
Right.
yeah, that's all I had. Anyone else have suggestions?
I guess there was a section in there, let's see, about trail closure and things like that. And there was an incident this past year. I think, yeah, it was just this past year where Catamount had, they put up that buck rail fence, and then they actually put a gate on the Woods Trace Trail where there was, they have put in a gate, and they actually put a chain on there and locked it. And there was an event happening out there, and someone had a medical emergency, and the hub is not always open, and there's not always somebody around, and the fire department couldn't find a key to open up the gate to get to the person. So that was a problem. And now they have actually, the chain is still there with the lock, but it's not actually locked. You can unclip it from the back and access it. It's just kind of a visual. But I think that there needs to be, they shouldn't be locking a gate, I guess, for people to have access, whether it's the town or, emergency medical folks or anything like that. And I know that there was a big, Kim, the executive director, was very, adamant on trying to get every single person counted. So trying to funnel everybody over to the hub. And, I think that's, it's good to know how many people are using it, but it just is not working. Folks are just not wanting to sign, they just don't sign in. And I think that the majority of the usage over there is probably the members. And I just think that that's probably, that's pretty adequate for, counting the usage is, folks that have memberships and things like that. So there isn't really anything in there that addresses that, but now that gate is there, I guess, there just has to be a way, a way for easy access for those, medical and Velco needs to be able to access that too, so.
So Terry, who initially had to approve that fence and gate system?
Yeah, I don't think I was on that committee at that point, and it was the fence was they sent out a survey, and then I guess maybe the committee, I guess, voted on accepting it, but I never knew that there was going to be a physical gate. I thought there was going to be something like the McCulloughs had done, where there was a gate, but there was a walk around where people could walk around that, and there was never a lock on it. So I don't know who the final approval was for that. So. But it doesn't seem, it's the gate is there, but it's not locked. There was a lot of talk about, and that may be something, and I was there the other day, and yes, there was a vehicle had gone into the parking lot and just done these donuts, just gone in there. And I know that the outdoor center has talked about, after hours, people have gone in there and opened up the gates and driven out there. And, I never saw evidence of that, but I did see evidence of vehicles coming in. They do have a sign, I guess, Kim, the director said that the police department asked, told them to put up a sign that says this part, this area was monitored by a camera, even though there's not one, and hoping that that would deter. So that was an issue that the outdoor center had, was just people coming in there and vandalizing, I guess. But I think it was more the vehicles just going in there and making donuts, doing that. I really never saw evidence of somebody going through the gate and going out into the forest. So I don't know how that would be put in there, but they do have the trail closure option, which this past year, they actually cabled off the entrance for a few weeks to the town forest, which I wasn't too crazy about that idea, to block off access, because people do park in the parking lot to walk up and down the Governor Chittenden Road. So if we're not going to allow parking on the road, maybe there could just be some kind of they could put sawhorses up or a buck and rail fence on the interior to just allow for a handful of parking areas. So.
Thanks, Terry. So perhaps there could be a reference to maintaining accessibility for emergency vehicles at all times in the license. Maybe that'll address the locked gate issue.
Right.
Seems like either a good set of bolt cutters or a combination lock would work.
So I think the fire department have addressed that issue, from what I understand.
Oh, okay.
They've sorted themselves out with keys.
Okay, because there was another incident that happened out on Beartown Road where the fire department got to a gate and it was locked, and they just rammed through it. And they don't have bolt cutters, but the emergency medical emergency that happened this year wasn't a heart attack, but it could have been. And minutes could make a difference. But anyway, I just think that there should be no locked gates with keys and combinations, because those can get lost too. But.
Thanks, Terry. Any other comments on the cutout license?
So Ethan, do you see this before it gets signed? I'm just curious.
Oh, I don't know. And I'm sorry, everybody. For some reason, I had this in my calendar as 7:30, not 7.
We're
But
talking
no,
about
I'd
something
like
slightly
to.
different.
Yeah, it seems like knowing what happens in there management wise,
Yeah.
you should
Well,
see it.
And the one element of the license that I'm a little concerned about is some of the language around forest management, like the language around sort of like what our responsibility is to fix up trails. And of course, like after we do this management, we're using these trails that are historic forest management trails that have been significantly upgraded. But I'm a little concerned that we might get shackled to like a level of restoration that is above and beyond, where they are right now. And that would mean like the cool thing, the generating income is not a goal of the project in 2023 at all. It's just more like a byproduct, but that income could then allow us to do a lot of good work, specifically with the invasive species that I'm really concerned about. So it would suck to do all this work and then have all that income get drawn away, to really, 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 do a ton of extra work to like restore those trails beyond a level that they're at right now. I think that's my main concern.
Yeah, it seems like altering that language to say, bring them back up to the prior condition or something like that would be appropriate.
Yeah, or just to make it, I think there is some language approximating that, but just to make it more clear. I mean, and the other thing would just be that, like, you know, this is a multi-use forest, and, you know, it's a managed forest. It's obviously a tremendous recreational resource, but I think that we should all share in the responsibility towards, you know, some responsibility towards trail cleanup. You know, if that organization is running a business on this community forest, that it shouldn't be all on us to like hire people and to do it all ourselves and stuff like that. So that, I mean, I don't know what form that would take in that license agreement, but it would be, I would love to just be able to take a look at it and make a couple comments, maybe.
Simon, can you pull up that section of the license? Maybe, I don't know if
Sure.
Simon or Ethan, if you know, if you can point us in the location of that text in the license.
I haven't looked at it in a while, so I don't,
Oh, okay.
I don't know off the top of my head.
It was referenced in a few places. Maybe it was.
Yes, there's one. The town reserves the right to engage in forest management practices. Obviously, they should be conducted in a manner that minimizes impact on any use of the property by licensee. So like, for instance, that's a little broad for me.
Yeah, any impact.
that could be interpreted in a whole lot of different ways, you know. I'm just reading through the rest of this. Like, all reasonable actions will be taken to cause the least amount of disruption to existing trails while such work is being performed. And any damage to the licensed area caused by such work shall be restored at the town's expense. So like, I think we could make that like a little bit narrower, like, you know, again, talking about that we will restore trails specifically, not the whole area. And we will restore the trails up to a level that is the level that they're at preceding that work.
Okay.
Is that just, I assume that's something the commission agrees with, I guess.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and because the other thing I'm thinking of is that, like, you know, this work is going to have at least a short-term negative aesthetic impact on that area. You know, just to me, it's going to make it look beautiful, but like to a lot of people, it's going to look really messy. And you know, we're trying to give people lots of tools to understand what it's going to look like and why it's going to look like that, and why a lot of that stuff that they think of as messiness is actually really important from an ecological perspective. But you know, we don't want to be on the hook for, you know, going in there and like making everything look pretty throughout the entire 30-acre area.
To your question, Simon, I'm in support of making the language around restoration after forestry activities more narrow, so that there's not expectations beyond returning to prior state just for trails.
Okay.
Simon, I'd be happy if you send me a Word document of this license agreement. I would be happy to just make some comments on it, if that's helpful.
I think I'd rather, if you do have some comments, just give me your comments in an email, if that's okay.
Okay. I'll make a note to do that. What's the time frame?
Eric, the town manager, wants to go back to them in the next 2 or 3 weeks, so we've got a little bit of time.
Okay. Yep. I will get some comments to you.
Great. Thanks, Ethan. Anyone else on this license?
I guess go ahead.
Oh, Terry, I was just going to ask, you know, people's memories aren't going to be that great on what the trail actually looked like. Does the Catamount committee, would they go out and take pictures of the trails before Ethan did his work, so that, you know, there's no question as to what the trail looked like beforehand?
We are for sure going to do that.
My
Okay.
assumption is that there would be some sort of existing conditions survey, whether by
Uh,
pictures or video, just so everyone can agree that that's what it's like before we start doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good idea. Pictures, videos, and they can just be, held on. So I just had a comment about number 18, and that's improvement in structures. And I know that, was some talk, I met with Kim last year, I think it was, about the barn and just the usage of barn. The outdoor center uses that for storage, and it does, note that in this section that they are able to use that for storage. And when we went in there, the barn is in need of some help. A cable was installed to, hold it together because it was kind of bowing out. There needs some repair on the roof. And Kim at that time stated that it just was because of the condition that it was in, it wasn't very usable for the outdoor center and for even storage of their equipment. And I know that they were talking of, maybe some yurts, and they have a couple of, temporary structures up for their things. And Melinda was concerned about how many of these were going to pop up on the property because the barn, is, not in the greatest shape, and it's very low ceilings. It's only used for, the employees. So I guess the thing that I was looking at was to, possibly have the outdoor center use that barn for, keeping all their equipment in, and possibly, they were talking about we went in there just recently with Simon and Hans. Maybe it could be fixed up where the kids, he said one of the most important things is that there's no shelter for the kids during camps and things. If there's a thunderstorm, that really there's nowhere for them to go. There's some area over across at the McCulloughs, but that's rented space, and they weren't sure how long that was going to be. They would be able to use that. So, we've been looking into, the fixing up the barn possibly. It would be a big undertaking. And, Catamount was talking about, setting up a yurt over there. So that would just be, something to kind of think about, because, they are thinking that they need to have something, they want to consolidate all their operations to over near the hub. There was a shed that appeared last year or the year before for, I really didn't know. I came in one day and there was this huge shed, which has turned out to be actually pretty useful because they keep their bikes in there, and we also use it as like a kiosk for all the signage and things like that. So it actually has worked out, and the handicap
should we-
parking.
Terry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're already 10 minutes over.
Okay, so just something to note.
Okay.
That's an issue, just the structures.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I was looking at Catamount Forestry Management update and research and thinking this was all the same agenda item. Sorry, Simon.
I just want to
I thought we
make
had
sure
like
we've
another
got-
25 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. If we need to, Terry, if you want to provide some more written comments on the sheep barn, then feel free to go ahead. And
Oh, we're
do
going to
that.
talk about it tomorrow at our committee meeting, so.
Okay. All right. My apologies, Simon. I was
Okay.
reading the agenda wrong. All right, Ethan, the real reason you're here is to provide an update on the Catamount Forestry Management outreach. Not to provide comments on the license. Sorry, my confusion.
Right. So this project, so like, the management work that we're doing, when you do management in these areas that are really heavily used, there's like, obviously, there's a lot more potential for like unrest and for people being uncomfortable and stuff like that, because this is an area that people really utilize. but there's also, like, within that, there's also more benefit, right? Because there's going to be more eyes on the project. It'll be more visible. And this, so I've never done an outreach project quite this involved, where we're like starting an outreach a full year before the project actually starts. But just in my experience, the people really like to be given a lot of extra time to understand what's happening and why it's happening. They want to have a lot of different opportunities to be involved, or at least be able to evolve, even if they don't be able to be involved, even if they don't avail themselves of those opportunities. So this is where we're at with the outreach right now. So again, we're talking about a project that will likely be starting in August 2023. And so as part of this project, I went out with Hans and Reed and Terry, and we put up some permanent educational signage. I believe it's 7 or 8 signs that we put up around the area that we're going to be managing. So that's in the forest management plan. That's the area of stands 2 and 3 at prominent trail junctions is where you place them. Those are signs that explain different aspects of the work that we're going to be doing. They have QR code links, and they have information about different, like, dead wood and messiness and what ecological forestry is and what the project is, and links to resources to learn more. And those are aluminum signs with UV coating, so they're actually made to be up there. You know, they can be up there for years. So that's part of it. I also started to mark the trees that are going to be cut. There's a variety of different markings. And so I also created 2 different educational signs that are the more temporary. They're like laminated pieces of paper. One says, what do these markings mean? And so it's a legend that says, okay, this means a tree is going to be cut. One thing that's confusing is that there are some trees that are marked with an L. So that's a legacy tree. That's a tree that's going to be there forever. So I don't want people to think that that tree is going to be cut. So trees marked to be cut. There's 2 different demarcations of trees marked to be cut. There's pulp trees and there's sawlog trees. So pulp trees are marked with a dot, sawlog trees are marked with a slash. There's also some other markings that don't necessarily mean that the tree is going to be cut. Anyway, so those signs I put up, I think 8 of those all around the area. I also created something that I started doing during the pandemic when I was doing a project at the Andrews Community Forest, which is a self-guided tour. So on that sign, there's another sign that says, you know, take a self-guided tour of the 2023 forest management area. There's a QR code. You can download a free app called Avenza. And there's a QR code where you can download a map of the area that we're going to be managing, and it will help you navigate through that area. So you can walk through, see where all the area that's meant to be managed. On that map, there's also a legend, again, to show what those markings mean. There's the locations of those signs that we put up in case you want to take a little tour and look at all those different signs. So the idea with all of that is just like give people the tools to understand what we're going to do. Lots of advance notice, lots of different ways to get involved. And we're going to be doing public events as well. We have a public event on Saturday. But even if people don't want to or can't attend those public events, they still are going to be able to figure out what's happening, where it's happening, why it's happening, etc. So we're trying to really go overboard. The event this Saturday is with Tony D'Amato, one of Gary's colleagues, who is a serious heavy hitter, an important member of our forest management community. And he does a lot of the similar forest management work, or does research around a lot of similar forest management work that I do, which is trying to manage forests to be more diverse and complex and resilient in a changing climate, and managing young forests to be more like old forests. This event is specifically, it's also partnering with the Vermont Land Trust, and it's specifically focused on how do we manage forests in light of a changing climate. So that's a big focus of this project. This project it's not just about demonstration, it's also about research. So the forest is going to be part of this nationwide, actually, I think US and Canada wide project called Adaptive Silviculture for Climate Change, which is this network of forests that will help us learn more about how forests respond in a changing climate and how to manage them well. So that's anyway, that's the event. It'll be from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock this Saturday. We're going to meet in the Catamount parking area. And there will be more events to follow as well. Oh, and the last thing is I'm also writing an article for the Observer.
That sounds awesome, Ethan.
Yeah.
Especially like the legend idea, because every time I'm near forestry activity on a trail, I hear people talking about the markings, and there's a lot of misconceptions about what they mean, and it's not always consistent. So
yeah, and again, it's just like the idea of marking this thing a year in advance is something I've never done before, but like we have nothing to hide. This is a project that I'm really proud of, and I want that to be reflected in like how open and transparent we are about what's going to happen, to the point of like every individual tree that's going to get cut.
Yeah, I think it's great. Thank you, Ethan.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, it sounds like a really solid outreach plan to me. I just, despite all of this advanced work, which sounds very thorough and about as comprehensive as you can get, the day that first tree is cut, there's going to be posts in Front Porch Forum and everywhere else. So I advise you to have something written up and ready to go.
There's no question. There's no question. It's just the nature of how things are, and people, this is a beloved place, and people don't like change. So again, it's just like giving people a lot of advance notice, giving people a lot of tools to understand, and being clear when we do these events, like this, just like, it's not that this might not look good to you, like it's not going to look good to you. So that doesn't mean that it's bad. Like a lot of the things that don't look good to us are actually really positive for forests. So, just like really getting ahead of that. And then, when it is actually happening, being able to respond, and also like be like, offering of all these resources that we've created. But yeah, no, it's gonna be, I'm prepared, and that will be my responsibility to deal with that when that happens. And I am prepared to deal with the backlash of that, which I know that there's going to be some, and I feel like we have a really good basis for responding to it.
Maybe Front Porch Forum would be a good place to do some outreach too.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned, Ethan, I don't know how to repeat this, but you indicated that the recreational use is kind of an allowed use that's permitted on there. They don't own the space. So I think somehow emphasizing that the town is responsible for the space and forest management is required in this property somehow.
Yeah, or it's certainly, there was I think there was a lot of rhetoric when the property was first being acquired about people who are really focused on the recreational use of the space, and they're like, I believe that it was a quote, "We don't want this to become just another town forest," a place, as if to incorporate other uses would be to in some way diminish how special this property is. Yeah. Which of course I think it's exactly the opposite, right? That it's a multi-use space. I'm not saying that forest management is in any way more important than the recreational use of the space, just that those two different uses can be integrated.
Sure. And I don't know what proportion the management's being done on now, but it's not like 3/4 of the space or anything.
No, it's like 7% of the area of the property.
Right. That'd be great to emphasize that perhaps.
So the last thing, so this is a little bit different. And so the other thing I would say is that I would really welcome and ask for your ideas about how to reach people in the community in Williston, and what sort of events or methods of outreach. Terry's been really helpful in helping me think about this. But how we reach out to people in advance of this, and when it actually happens. So we don't have to talk about that right now, but just shoot me an email or something, or give me a call, and we'll talk about it. I do want to say, I do have to go at 8, but I do want to say that the only other thing that I think of note is that there is a pretty advanced invasive plant infestation at Catamount. And as I've been spending more time there, it's been increasingly clear to me how bad it is. It's really bad, especially in sort of the southern portion of the property, in the area around the power lines. So we need to get serious about how to deal with that. And I'm also, as I'm marking, I'm also noting where invasives are in the harvest area. And I'm planning on treating them like in a couple of weeks. I'm not really, honestly, like, I'm not really supposed to do that. Like, that's just in terms of like, I'm not supposed to be doing that kind of technical work for towns. I'm licensed to do it. I'm allowed to do it, but just to make sure that it gets done, I'm just going to spend a day there on Tuesday the 20th, weather permitting, killing invasives, spraying herbicide on invasives. There is, just within that area that I call the ball field, because it was the place where Jim McCullough played baseball when he was a kid, and is now, 70-foot tall pine trees. In that area, which is a little sort of young inclusion in that harvest area, there are some patches of barberry, honeysuckle, a few common buckthorn, and I just want to make sure that those are gone well in advance of the work that we do, because if the invasives are there and then you do this forest management work, you're going to get just an explosion of invasives. So I would say, just to say that, I'll ask to close off the trails through that area on that day. And I would really welcome any volunteers. I know that's a weekday, but any volunteers who are available on that day to help me do some invasive control. I don't think it'll take me the whole day just to do that one area. I'll probably expand, if I have more time, I'll probably expand off into some adjacent areas.
Sounds great. That week is horrible for me. Otherwise, I'd love to join you for that. But that's not any opportunity to get rid of an invasive species sounds good to me.
Yeah, and this is just like a super acute, like, I'm just doing this so that, specifically in advance of this project, but we also need to spend a lot of time and money on this problem more broadly. It's really bad.
What was that date again, Ethan?
9/20,
9/20.
Tuesday. And of course, if it's raining, I can't treat. So that permitting, that's the only day that I was able to block off in my schedule for September, which is when we should really do the work. But if it is raining, I'll find another day and I'll just go out there and do it on a Saturday or something.
Cool. Thanks,
The
Ethan.
life of an invasive warrior.
Yeah.
It's hard, it's hard to explain. It's like, and that's a whole, right, the invasives and the herbicide, like, that's a whole other conversation to have. That's really worth having. And the nuances and the complexities of why we would use something like herbicide in pursuit of biodiversity is complex. But it's
Sure.
but it's how we do it. It's the tool that we have.
Yep. I fight that same conversation in lake management, aquatic invasive plants too, all the time.
Yeah, and just real quickly, Ethan, I'm going to get the scouts out there at the end of September. I just have to set that up with Julie Nesbitt. And it would be a Sunday.
Where are you going to send them, Laura?
Well, you can let me know if there's a place you'd like, but I know that you mentioned that often the fields there, as you, from the parking lot, you kind of go left. There's a lot of honeysuckle off in those fields. So I was going to send them.
Yeah, there's honeysuckle and there's buckthorn. Like, as you're coming out of the parking area, just literally just right on either side of you.
Yeah.
I was thinking that area could be, maybe we talked about this before, that you could almost, in that area, you could flag everything that's not an invasive.
Mm,
And that would be easier. And then it's just like, if it doesn't have a flag on it, you can go ahead and kill it. And that's perfect cut stump areas too, because those are mostly like big honeysuckle.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's not a lot of little stuff.
Yeah. And yeah.
I was just
Okay.
wondering, Laura, would that work? Would it pay to have like a little demonstration area showing, this is what it used to look like, this is what it looks like now, here's what we're doing to manage it? I don't know. The public might be interested in such a thing. It's probably a lot
I'm
of
not
work.
sure how to set up a demonstration area, but I know that when I
Yeah.
do invasive workshops with people, they are really interested, and we kind of get down in the nitty gritty of what everything looks like, and it really helps to clear it off the edges of the trails also.
Yeah, I think maybe what you could do, Laura, is you could just start as you go down, start on that left side.
Hmm.
And then, there might be a situation, obviously, if you have more time, move to the right side, but like, it might be that you just spend the whole day on that left side, and then you have like a left side, right side comparison.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, and unfortunately, I wish I could join you on the 20th, but I'm going to be out of town, so.
That's okay.
All right, I know you need to go. Thanks for your time, Ethan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And yeah, please just let me know what you think about different like outreach opportunities, and spread the word, especially if you've heard any chatter about people wondering about what's going on with the forest management. Spread the word about that event, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Saturday. Just a free public event. I think Terry is going to share that to Front Porch Forum, or has.
Yeah.
But if there's other places to share it, please do share it, or let me know and I'll do it.
Yeah, the one thing that comes to my mind is just looking at any places where there's community gatherings, like the farmers market out at Isham's or over here at Adams Market, things like that too.
Yeah, and I'm going to make some resources. I'm going to make some videos and maybe a story map, so that people, even if I'm not physically there, that people can have a little bit of more context.
I could do like a setup at Isham's and have some flyers and just do like a informational, one Tuesday. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be fun.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Thanks, Ethan.
See ya.
See you soon.
All right, Simon, on to the staff report. We have first up is the VAST agreement renewal.
Yeah, so this is I think something that gets done annually, and we just changed the dates on it. So it's coming up for renewal for the upcoming season. I spoke with Bruce and he had no concerns with renewing it. I mentioned to Melinda, she said she hadn't received any complaints about snowmobile use in the previous season. So I was intending just to pass that along to Eric and state that, subject to what you guys have to say, that we recommend renewing it. So it's for the license for them to use snowmobiles on the vast trail on town land.
I have no concerns, Eric.
Yeah, I have no concerns. I'm glad we still have something in there that when they use ATVs for maintenance, that they do it when it's dry and that they fill the ruts after, because remember years ago, there was quite a mess in some of those areas. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, looks good to me too.
Right. So we've got the letter about the climate crisis. That's really just an FYI in case anyone wants to attend the meeting that's being organised. I think it's a series of meetings. The first one's on September 26th at 7 p.m. At the library. Then there's the town social for volunteers, which is next week, Thursday, September 15th on the village green. A good opportunity for everyone to meet up with your fellow volunteers. And we never really have enough time at these meetings to discuss everything we'd like to discuss or just catch up. So that would be a good opportunity, particularly for me, to meet you all outside of this setting.
Yeah, so I RSVP'd for that, and then learned that that night also is when my son's when the central school is doing something on there for my son's class. So I may be bouncing back and forth between the volunteer thing and the school. It's convenient that they're right next to each other, but
Yeah. Okay.
And then annual report progress. I haven't done my part on that.
So I looked and saw that Reed.
Yeah, I went in yesterday, did some, I tried to do something short to explain the transition from developing the SWHA revised mapping last fiscal year to thinking about how that impacts our strategy for land conservation this fiscal year. So feel free to take a look at it and make edits or comments or whatever, but I put in a few sentences.
Yeah,
excellent. Thanks.
I wrote up something for Carl, and I'll probably look at that one more time today and then send it out to everybody just in case they want to add to it.
Great. Thank you, Gary.
Gary, it might also be worth reaching out to Jude and asking her if she has anything she would like to contribute to it.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
All right. Yep. So we are going to adjourn unless there's anything else for the Zoom, we're going to adjourn the Zoom meeting and then head over to the Mud Pond Country Park. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to attend that, but have fun.
All right.
I have a vehicle available, but if there's anybody who would like to give me a ride from right by Corner Quick Stop down to Mud Pond, I would take it. So speak up,
Sure.
Otherwise I'll drive another vehicle.
Yeah, no,
I can pick you up, Reed.
Perfect.
Thanks, Simon.
Yep.
Shall I meet you at are you at the town office right now?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I can walk over and meet you there in just 2 minutes
Okay.
here.
Cool. See you in a minute.
Great, thank you.
All right. So we'll meet over at Mud Pond at about 8:15 or so, about 10 minutes.
Great.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.